here. So today I'm gonna give my personal opinion and a review of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I finished about a week ago. So I would call myself somebody who does like Zelda. I do like playing Zelda games every now and then. I played almost all of them except for the Wind Waker, which I'm actually playing through at the moment. The first Zelda game I ever played was Ocarina of Time back in 2010, which I played on my Wii, and ever since then I've been very into the whole Zelda series, and I think there are some brilliant games in this video game series, and I really like how the series has evolved over time, of how certain conventions have been kept and certain conventions have been left. But pretty much everybody knows who's played Zelda. That's basically a mix between stuff that you do in the overworld, side quests, as well as uncovering dungeons, which are complexes where you have to solve puzzles and progress and unlock new doors and items where there's a boss at the end. So overall, it took me a while to get around to playing Breath of the Wild, because I've only owned a Switch for just over 2 years now, and I do know that it is one of the most popular games that is on it, and I also know that I think Breath of the Wild was one of the Switch's launch titles, and I just finished playing it, and I'll go over the stuff that I was really impressed by, stuff that blew me away, and also a couple of things that I thought could have been done better. So without further ado, this is my review of The Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild, the latest entry in the Legend of Zelda series. So anyway, so what did I think of this game? Well, it's obviously, the game absolutely blew me away. It was incredible. The game is absolutely massive. I mean, the world of this game is just jaw-droppingly large, and the amount of area and space that is in this game really did blow my mind of just how much they were able to fit into this world. And the great thing about this game too is that the load times are really short. They're usually only last maximum maybe 10-15 seconds tops. Of course, the game reloads every time you die and get the game over the screen. Of course, when you go into certain shrines, certain areas, the game will preload and have a little loading screen. But like, I played several modern open world games such as The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and Ghost of Tsushima, Grand Theft Auto 5, and even though The Witcher 3 is also another amazing game, I've always kind of had a problem with its loading screen. The loading screen in The Witcher 3 does sometimes take a while. It can usually round off of a minimum of 20 seconds to the maximum of over a minute. Sometimes I've sat and it's been loading for 2 minutes, and sometimes it loads and loads and nothing happens. I have to reset the game. But I guess one of the merits of having this game on the Nintendo Switch is that it is card based. There's no disc reading, and it really does blow my mind that like a card this big can hold like what is it, like 120 gigabytes. Like, how are you supposed to fit something on like a card that big? I mean, like the N64 cartridges, their maximum storage limit was 32 megabytes, and you have something this tiny, and it just blows my mind. And like, because all the modern gaming systems now use discs or are downloaded digitally, the Switch is the only one that has a card system, and it's actually Nintendo's only cartridge, if you can really call that, base system since the N64, which was from the late 90s. So I kind of like the resourcefulness that Nintendo is using, being a bit different from the crowd, which they've basically been doing since the release of the Wii, and ever since they released the Wii, graphically they've kind of been behind from the rest of the game, the rest of the industry, I'm trying to say. But I was really impressed with just the overall overworld of this game, though there are several things that I weren't impressed by. I thought the music in this game was pretty weak compared to most other Zelda games. I mean, you got Ocarina of Time, you got Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and even a Link to the Past, or even a Link Between Worlds. They all have amazing soundtracks are all so memorable and so distinct and have a certain atmosphere. I mean, like, Ocarina of Time has one of the most memorable video game soundtracks of all time, and Twilight Princess is also incredibly memorable, incredibly impactful, very memorable and powerful music. Even Skyward Sword, Majora's Mask is also another brilliant example. A darker tone, a darker atmosphere, but its music is also incredibly atmospheric and memorable. And in this game, the music to me just kind of felt like it was just there, like it was just existing. The battle fighting theme got on my nerves a lot, more than a lot of other games. You can say that Twilight Princess had the same problem, but I don't know. And like, and it's funny because like, even going back to like other games, it just felt like it didn't have as much atmosphere as the other ones. But I think the one that really jarred out most to me was that I thought the music could have been done better. As I said, the music isn't bad, it's not horrible to listen to, or it's not uncomfortable or displeasing. It just kind of feels a little bit ambivalent, like it doesn't feel really emotional enough, or that's not really the right word, just like it doesn't have enough feeling in it, it doesn't have enough atmosphere in it, which I thought that some earlier Zelda games were able to pull off so well. Something that also kind of caught me off guard about this game is this game has no title screen or no title screen music. Now, if you really ask like most Zelda fans what is one of the most memorable things about the games, they'll probably tell you that the title screens are like my favourite being Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. And this game doesn't have any intro music, doesn't have any big cool title sequence. It just drops you into the main menu, and then you hit the continue button, a cool sound effect plays and the game loads, but there's no music. This game does have a pretty minimalistic approach to it. The art design is interesting, to say the least. It's kind of like it does have a cel shaded feel to it, like in Wind Waker, but it's not as stylized. It's not as hardcore cartoonified as that game is. I mean, like the water for one thing doesn't look like blue paint. The water is translucent in this game, but like everything kind of has almost kind of like this cel shaded cartoony haze to it. This the whole game almost has like this misty haze to it. This sort of kind of like oversaturated bloom effect when it comes to like the grass or the mountains or the lighting, and it's cool. It looks very crisp. And but it also does sometimes look a bit empty. And a major problem that I found with this game is that I kind of felt like sometimes it looked a bit dull, like the colours weren't vibrant enough, or the colours kind of felt a bit muddy, hazy, very overcast. A lot of dark shadowing, and like a lot of these in these places. Just it just kind of had this dull haze that a lot of the previous Zelda games didn't have. Another thing that I also didn't like about it was the horse controls. The horse controls were very awkward, very skittish, very hard. I found I had a very hard time controlling my horses in this game. They like to go in like a straight line, and when you like pull the control stick left or right, they don't really seem to want to turn, or they turn very slightly, and it takes them a very long time to make sharp turns. And even if you want them to turn harder, they just kind of like buck you off, or they don't want to go, or they get agitated. And I did start to get used to this as the game went on, and as your horses can like be leveled up and you get to learn to soothe them. But I just found it frustrating the way that they controlled, and I often prefer just wanting to walk from point A to point B on my own. And I guess it does take a long time to traverse the terrain, which is really, you can't really blame them for that, because the world is just so large. I mean, like, it makes the world of Ocarina of Time look like an absolute joke by comparison in size. Though, even though like Ocarina of Time's overworld was great for its time, it definitely has shown its age, and it's quite dated compared to like just the size I like all the areas, and I did enjoy exploring this world. There were a lot of surprises, and I did like a lot of certain regions of this game. There was kind of like there was this kind of like this forest area, like this tropical forest area, like by the beach, on like the southern east side of the map, and I actually liked this area the most. I really liked just how tropical it felt, how much it felt like a real forest with real nature and like real flowers that you could pick up. And I also loved riding my horse and running across the beach in that area. I thought it was very beautiful, very picturesque. As I said, the game kind of falls in almost like this uncanny valley of being beautiful yet being kind of visually dull at the same time, if I can really say that. It is a really big nitpick, but it is still a bit of a complaint that I had with the visual style of this game, because it's not just exclusive to, it's not like a Switch like thing. Graphically, I did find it most noticeable in this game. Like, there are games like Mario Odyssey which do not look like this at all, or Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which was a lot more vibrant than Breath of the Wild. I'm not sure if this was an artistic design choice or whether there was some sort of limitation with the graphics hardware on generating a game of this size on like the Switch, but it was noticeable, and maybe Tears of the Kingdom will improve upon this. I don't know. I haven't researched that much about Tears of the Kingdom, but it is going to come out in about 4 months, and it looks like it's going to be like a mix between Breath of the Wild and Skyward Sword. How like a lot of the overworld of this game is going to be set in the sky and on the ground. I am interested in seeing how this game will play, but overall, this is I'm focusing on Breath of the Wild. So I did enjoy the overworld. There was lots of wonderful characters in this game. Beetle makes a return, which was great. There's a few nice towns dotted throughout the landscape. As I said, this isn't a very civilization-heavy game. It's not like in The Witcher 3, where there are several large cities like Novigrad that you can traverse. Just a lot of smaller villages with a lot of quaint houses and like inns in these very rare places dotted throughout the map. It's more about like the nature, about the mountains. Oh, and also the mountains in this game. The mountains were absolutely amazing in this game. I loved Death Mountain in this game. It's like the closest a video game has ever gotten to creating a real volcano. Also, Lanairu Mountain was very fun to climb and traverse, as well as those plateaus that were near Gerudo Desert. I loved climbing those and exploring those. So overall, a very, very well thought out and very well created map, and it's really quite a spectacle to see it all from like a high point, just to see it all and see how much time was put into terraforming, like virtually terraforming this land and putting all the stuff to do into it. It is a very incredible feat, and it's something that I was very impressed by this game. But as I said, I do feel like the game had a few flaws, with the most major one being the music, and also me being a bit frustrated of how the horse controls weren't as smooth as I thought they were going to be. So yeah, I guess it is a shame that the horse riding in this game didn't really click for me, because previous games have done it so well. The Witcher 3 did it well, but the best example I have played is Ghost of Tsushima. The horse controls are basically perfect in that game. So seamless, so responsive, very easy to pick up, very easy to speed up and slow down and jump off of. While in this game, you have trouble maintaining the speed, because you have like 3 speed boosts that only last about 5 seconds each, and then your horse slows down again, and it's basically this even a bit slower than walking speed. So with all these issues in the way, I just thought to myself, why bother with the horses? I'll just walk around and fast travel and use the horses. And even Ocarina of Time, the very first game where you could ride a horse, had better horse controls than this, even though the horse controls in Ocarina of Time is a bit sloppy by today's standards. It's still better, which is a bit unfortunate to say that. Twilight Princess's horse controls, in my opinion, had the best in the series. Very responsive, almost as responsive as the ones in Ghost of Tsushima. Though I still think Twilight Princess's controls on that matter are the best in the series, and I thought after all this time, Nintendo could have a horse and controlled better than what it was in this game. Another convention that this game really heavily alters compared to the rest of the previous Zelda games is the dungeons. There aren't really dungeons in this game. There aren't like places that you can uncover and you go inside and you have to solve puzzles and get new items and find all the rooms and fight the boss. Instead, you have 4 things called divine beasts. And these aren't like things underground or in buildings. They're actually buildings themselves, but they are themed or like disguised as these massive animals that traverse the land of Hyrule in this game. And in order to get access to one of these 4 beasts, you have to like embark on this main quest where you have to like talk to people or get enough arrows, and you got to meet with like a certain person or do a certain thing for them to like gain your trust. And once you gain their trust, they help you like traverse like a lake or go up Death Mountain to find the beast, and then you have to like subdue the beast. And then once you do that, you actually go inside the beast and solve puzzles, and you have to rid the beast of evil of Ganon, and then you have to fight the boss of Ganon. And these beasts were actually very well designed, in my opinion. I mean, there were a few that were better than others, but something I really liked about these beasts is that you could like control their movement. You could like open the map screen and like maybe like turn like kind of like a barrel inside, or like move like a trunk, or get it to fly on one side and fly on the other side. And it was fun. I had a really good time figuring out these puzzles. One of them, actually I had to look up a walkthrough, but it got a bit difficult. But after that I was able to pretty much get through these ones. I mean, they weren't easy, but I was able to get through them quite quickly and being able to figure things out, because you do need a lot of observational skills and a lot of you have to think a lot to really work out like how these divine beasts work and how to unlock all the rooms. They are kind of like these life-size like puzzle boxes. Like these are kind of like these things that you gotta like move around and kind of like click in like the right place. And I kind of like the way that they were crafted, and I wouldn't mind seeing them in like the next game. I'm not sure if Tears of the Kingdom will revert back to the old dungeon design again, but I like this and it was a good change. So yeah, so the gameplay was great. I did like the combat in this game too. The combat in this game is actually quite different compared to all the other ones too, because in this game you're not just given like 2 or 3 swords in the entire story that are with you permanently. All your items in this game are breakable, so if you use them for long enough they will shatter and you will have to find a new one. But I did like this concept. I did find that I thought the weapons broke a bit too quickly, and I kind of wish that they could maybe been upgraded. Like you could like take them to like a forgery, like in The Witcher 3, or have like take elements and get like a new weapon created for you, or have them upgraded, sharpened. And this game didn't really have that. There are just weapons that are dropped in the environment, and you just pick them up and you use them for like about, I think every weapon can be used for about maybe 5 minutes until they start to get worn down, and then they break and you've got to find new ones. The shields work the same way too. If you use your shield long enough, they break. If you surf them long enough, they break. If you use your bow and arrows for long enough, your bows break. So I wasn't a real big fan of that at first, but I got used to it. There are spin attacks in this game, but unlike in previous Zelda games when you hold down the button and Link will release an attack, he will just spin around indefinitely until he runs out of stamina. You can also upgrade your stamina in this game by completing shrines, which are like mini dungeons of the game. So yeah, I guess the game does have dungeons, but there are mini dungeons called shrines, and I don't know how many there are. There's probably maybe about 80 of these in the entire world. I think I finished about 35 of them. to get to complete the game. But there are many good puzzles in this game. But I guess my main complaint is that every shrine visually does look the same. Their visual design for every puzzle does feel very recycled. Very it kind of felt almost like a test chamber from Portal in a way. I mean, very minimalistic design. They all kind of look the same, but objects are placed around differently for you to solve different puzzles. But all the assets are like the same. Like every shrine has the same looking ball slot, moving platforms. The water looks the same. The ladders look the same. The music's the same. Every shrine has the same ambient music, which actually I didn't mind this song. Actually, this song was pretty nice, but it does have a very calming mood. But you're going to spend a lot of time in these shrines if you're going to upgrade your hearts and upgrade your stamina wheel. I was able to get one extra stamina wheel, and that was enough for me. I was able to use just that one stamina wheel to climb even the tallest of mountains. So I'm not sure if you need the extra 2 or 3. I hardly upgraded my stamina at all, but I was still able to save my use my stamina efficiently to climb Mount Lanairu and climb big plateaus. And the climbing in this game is actually really fun because there are very few games that I can think of where they really nail the climbing. Assassin's Creed games are ones that do climbing very well. You can climb on any surface as long as there's something to grab onto. I always like that. Uncharted has good climbing as well, though the climbing in that game kind of feels a bit more like platforming than climbing. You've only got certain sections where you can climb things. And in this game, you can basically climb on anything as long as it's not wet, which I kind of like. The climbing is slow, but if you push X, you can jump ahead a little bit at the cost of some stamina. And your stamina will run out unless you reach a space where you can that you can stand up on. If you don't, you will slip and fall down to the nearest place below you where you can actually stand up. So it does require a little bit of skill and learning, which I did enjoy that aspect. So yes, I love just how tall the mountains were in this game. Really, the only other game where I could even compare the mountains was Skyrim, where I remember in that game you climbed the throat of the world. But in that game, you didn't really climb the actual mountain. You were just going up the side of it, going up this massive staircase, all these paths. While in this game, you're actually climbing the edge of the mountain. While in Skyrim, you can't really do that. You can only jump down the side of the mountain, kind of side jump down the side of the mountain. You can ride your horse up a really steep slope, which is completely unrealistic, but it's funny to watch. While in this game, you can see that aspect of gameplay and game design has evolved, and I don't think any other games apart from Breath of the Wild have been able to pull this off so well. So there's another pro I can add to this review. So that kind of leaves the last thing they haven't talked about yet, and that is the story. The story in this game is actually quite minimalistic, the most minimalistic Zelda story that's probably ever been done. So basically, there's no opening cutscene in this game, no backstory. You're Link and you wake up in this little bath in this shrine, and you're just immediately left to your own devices of how to get off the first plateau, and then you meet a few characters that kind of tell you the story about this version of Hyrule, why it fell into disrepair and decay, and why Ganon has once again infected his darkness on this realm. And basically the entire aim of the game is that you got to find Zelda, kind of just like how you're supposed to find Ciri in The Witcher 3. And there are 12 locations across the map where you can add to your memory bank, where you are shown a cutscene which is usually with you and Zelda from the past, which helps Link remember who he is and why he's here. And I did enjoy watching these cutscenes. They were quite difficult to track down. I actually still haven't tracked down all of them. I think I have 4 or 3 left, and these things can be really hard to find. I mean, every now and then when I'm in a town, you might meet somebody who might be able to point you in the right direction, but there's no waypoints. You've got to look at this picture on your Sheikah slate, and you've got to just figure out, just by visual reference, where it is in the map and just walk and just pray that you find like that glowing thing on like the ground where you can see the cutscene. So I did like the orienteering and like navigating part of the game of trying to navigate like a needle in like a haystack in like a map this big, so that was a nice touch. But overall, the story mostly takes a back seat for the most of the game unless you like free Divine Beast or be the boss. But the story was fine. Of course, I think there have been better stories in Zelda games before. I think Majora's Mask had one of the best stories. Skyward Sword also had a very a good story with a lot of twists and turns and drama. And Twilight Princess had a good story as well. And Ocarina of Time had like a great story as well, but it did feel very traditional. And I feel like Ocarina of Time's story was kind of like the template of what future Zelda games would copy off, with a couple of others being the minority, like Majora's Mask, which is very different compared to the rest of the series. Overall, I didn't really have a problem with the story. I kind of appreciated how this game was more focused on just the exploration and the gameplay. Also, it's the first Zelda game in history to have voice acting in the game. You don't hear it much, but it is in cutscenes. I did listen to a bit of the Japanese, and the Japanese was fine. It's basically what I expected the Japanese voice acting to sound like. Zelda in English does sound a bit too forced. She does sound a little bit too medieval, a little bit too, traditional fantasy, like that kind of British accent that no one else seems to have. Like the Gorons have like an American accent, and the Ravios or whatever the bird people were in this game kind of had a bit of a more strident and a bit more academic sort of British like accent. Or Zelda was like, "Oh Link, what say you in your defense? And oh, will you save me, Link?" And it got on my nerves a little bit. I mean, like, I don't usually imagine Zelda speaking like that in like the other games. I always kind of imagined Zelda, even though she's like a princess, she's a little bit more casual than that. And that's what I kind of liked about previous Zelda games. You kind of like imagine what the characters sounded like, because you had no audio reference of what they were supposed to sound like. So if you're like an Australian, you could like imagine them being Australian. If you're an American, you imagine them being American. If you're Japanese, you imagine them being Japanese, and so on. You could imagine whatever they sounded like. But in this game, I did appreciate how they were trying to kind of keep up with the times and add voice acting, and it was a good effort. It wasn't terrible, so there's that. But overall, I did have a great time with Breath of the Wild. It's really up in the air whether I will sit down and play this game again. I probably will, maybe sometime in the future. But I think I'm going to return the game now that after I finished it and just focus on playing Tears of the Kingdom, which I'm surprised to see how they're going to improve and evolve from this one, if they will actually do that, and how different it will be. So even though I did have a few gripes with this game, overall most of it was very good, very masterful even. It is, a lot of people have called this game a masterpiece, and I think I could agree with that. I mean, like, in terms of the world building and just how massive the world is and how much stuff they were able to fit into it, a lot of things to see and do, a lot of things to uncover, and a lot of things to climb and unlock. It is an incredible achievement, definitely in the video game scape and gaming history. It is a really big step forward of interactive world building and exploration. And that's basically the heart of Zelda games. It's all about exploring the world and uncovering mysteries and solving puzzles. So it definitely works for the Zelda formula, the Zelda series. And overall, I think I would give this one a 9 out of 10. So yeah, a very good score. Highly recommend playing this game if you own a Switch. And if you're a fan of Zelda, you've probably already played it anyway. So anyway, that's my opinion on Breath of the Wild. I'll eventually, once I get around to playing Tears of the Kingdom, I'll let you know what I think of that game too. That game doesn't come out until May, so it'll be a while. Overall, I hope you've enjoyed listening to me ramble on about Zelda. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting the channel. As always, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.